Call our meeting to order. We have a quorum. It's February 21st, 2024 at 11:43 a.m. And this is the second meeting of the calendar year for the Economic Growth and Development Committee. First order of business is seeking an approval of the January 24th meeting minutes. Somebody want to make a motion for that? By Ms. Turner and then seconded by Mr. Mayday. Any discussion on the minutes? I'll call the question. All those in favor of approving the January 24th meeting minutes as is, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carries unanimously. Next, privilege of the floor. Anybody from the general public like to speak to the committee? Any non-committee member supervisor like to speak to the committee? All right, we're going to move into the planning department's agenda. No resolution request today. Beth, the director of the Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board, is here today to talk about accomplishments from last year. And we have a presentation.
Yeah.
Pull up the presentation now.
Yes, please.
Give me just a moment.
Well, I'm Beth Gillis. I am the executive director of the Lake Champlain Lake George Regional Planning Board. For those of you who don't know who we are the federally designated economic development district for Warren, Washington, Clinton, Essex, and Hamilton counties. It's just a fancy way of saying the federal government made us to work on economic development issues within our region. So we are funded in part by Warren County. We do regional work. We also do county and town specific work. And so I just wanted to go through some of our 2023 accomplishments, and feel free to stop me if you have any questions. So my favorite picture of the year is Mayor Ray Perry and I with a big cardboard check for $10 million at the Lake George DRI announcement with Governor Hochul at the end of last year. So the next one. So one of the things that we do the most of is grant writing. We do it for free for our communities and our counties. So last year, Regional Planning Board staff authored 52 grant applications. To date, 26 have been awarded, totaling $9.84 million in grant funding. We do have 5 that are still outstanding. 2 of those being $1 million grants. So hopefully those get announced within the next couple of months. And we know if we've got that money for those projects as well. Go ahead. So for every dollar contributed by the 5 counties, the Regional Planning Board has brought in $224 in grant funding into the region. Okay. This is just a list of the grants. As I mentioned, some are town specific, some are county specific, some are for the Regional Planning Board, which we use to do regional work, but they range from comp plans to brownfields to main streets to broadband and housing and water quality work. So just some updates on what we've been doing around our regional issues, workforce housing. So we received a grant, $160,000 from the Northern Border Regional Commission to do a housing study for a 4-county region. So it's called Building Balanced Communities for the North Country. We released it in April of 2023, and we did quite the roadshow to talk about that plan. There are 10 initiatives, 35 strategies as part of that plan. We've been working on these specific ones, most specifically growing sustainable funding for existing housing organizations. We have a lot of rural preservation companies in the Adirondack Park, and we also have the Adirondack Community Housing Trust. And so we've been working to secure funding for them to be able to do their work. My staff is working on a zoning guide for communities. We're also working on an APA pre-development approval program. When it comes to housing development, there's a lot of upfront work that needs to be done. So we, being nonprofits in the government, are trying to figure out how we can do that work and really make housing like either municipally owned or nonprofit owned property like shovel ready for housing so that it could be marketed to developers. And then we also secured $500,000 for a workforce housing revolving loan fund for our hamlets. We were part of the North Country REDC plan, helped author and work on the housing section of that. And we also received a National Impact Award for the housing study. broadband. We received $220,000 from Northern Border Regional Commission. We're going to get another 220 this year. We used that money to pay for our staff time to complete the original FCC broadband challenge in January of 2023. And now we have hired a consultant to work on a regional broadband deployment plan for our 5-county area, so it does include Warren County. And that is underway right now. That will be completed in May. And we've also received funding from New York State ESD to work on the New York State broadband challenge, which is going to start, I think, next month. And these are some other community development, water quality initiatives. We secured funding for the town of Johnsburg for the comp plan, and my staff is doing that. We also secured funding for the town of Horicon to update their comp plan. That'll start this year. And we received funding for the town of Chester in this last round, so that comp plan will start next year. We're involved in the North Creek Sewer Project, the Lake George DRI, as I mentioned before, and our water quality work. We completed the Lake George Watershed Action Plan and also some Lake Champlain water quality initiative planning this year. And then our small business program. So thanks to Warren County and also funding from Washington County and a grant we got from USDA. We launched our small business technical assistance program. We currently have 7 businesses enrolled in that program. And we also partnered with Jeff from the SBA and held 3 business hour events. 2 of them were in Warren County. And some information on our loan fund. Our loan committee approved 4 loans this year. One of them, unfortunately, is not going to go forward, so only 3 will go to closing. One is closed, one's closing next week, and the other one will close in a couple weeks. So totaling $321,000 in loaned capital. We do have 3 loans in default currently. We did write 1 loan off. That was a long time. That effort started in 2018. We finally got through it in 2023. We did have 1 loan mature and 1 loan pay off early. So we're starting 2024 with 49 loans totaling $5.27 million in loan capital. And I just wanted to mention, we partnered with 4 other regional entities in 2023 to put together the 2024 Adirondack economic agenda. And so it's focused on these 5 issues. The Regional Planning Board has been asked to speak specifically on housing. We're meeting with the governor's staff and Senate and Assembly majority and minority members soon, and I'll be in DC in a couple of weeks to talk to our federal representatives as part of this effort. And that in a nutshell is 2023. So if anyone has any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Thank you, Beth.
All right. Okay.
Just a comment, really. You guys have been great partners. That's it. I mean, a lot of the work that we're doing right now is supported by the stuff that you've done. So we carry forward some of the plans that you've done, and then at the same time, you know, support future efforts. So it's nice to have a good partner in that way.
Ethan, Sarah, you want to continue with planning department agenda discussion items?
Sure. So we have no action items on the agenda this month. We do just briefly note one of the discussion items is a upcoming grant opportunity, the Northern Borders Regional Commission, which is a federal and state partnership. There's the Catalyst program, which is a very attractive, economic development, infrastructure, and environmental sort of quality grant. It's 80-20 matching, so it's 80% federal matching, 20% local share, which is very attractive as compared to some of the plain old New York State grant funding programs. The letter of interest for this program is due on March 15th. We have a few potential county level projects that we're thinking about submitting, but we will also be, in our conversations with various supervisors and are looking at other plans that we have, trying to figure out what other opportunities there are to come up with some good projects. And if people don't have projects right now that are great for a March 15th deadline for a letter of interest, there'll be another round of funding in September. So Something that's definitely worth paying attention to. It's a lot of money that's available, and it's a very attractive match. So. The other discussion item, actually, yeah, was our annual report. Let's pull up the presentation. And while that's being pulled up, just a side note, the governor's office released a pro-housing program. And this is a incentive-based program to encourage municipalities to take a close look at how their land use regulations impact the viability of providing new housing supply. Communities that enroll in this program will receive 3 additional points when it comes to their grant application evaluations for various state programs. The planning department with GIS can help provide assistance to communities in gathering the necessary information that will let them enroll in this program and get favorable evaluation when it comes to grant funding. So again, this is one of these things where we can reach out to municipalities individually to see how we can assist them in getting this extra 3 points for their grant applications. Fantastic. The annual report. All of you in your agenda packet received our 30-page 2023 year in review. We have a fairly brief presentation for you today. 2023, we saw quite a bit of change. Wayne Lamoth, longtime director, retired. Pat Tadich retired as well. And we reorganized the department with Sarah and I both sort of heading our respective fields, planning and GIS. The main thrust of what we're doing this year has not necessarily been aggressively pursuing every grant opportunity that's out there, but it's a sort of an opportunity for us to reflect as a department about the direction that we want to go. We're doing this via the comprehensive plan. This is a pretty big effort that we started last year, and we anticipate closing up at the end of this year. A lot of you have been paying attention to this process. We do think that having a good comprehensive plan in place will provide our department with the guidelines to make really strategic long-term decisions about, what grant programs we pursue, what projects are top priority for the use of our time. We found a lot of the grant programs that we go after, whether it be aquatic invasive species or some other effort, the amount of time that you end up programming to these grants is considerable. We get ourselves wrapped into 2- and 3-year initiatives with these grant applications. So we're taking this opportunity to be very deliberate and careful about which of these opportunities we pursue. So we look forward to your support with this going forward. We're ongoing efforts into our outdoor recreation economy strategic plan. We hope that this is going to be another good complement to the comprehensive plan and sort of taking a hard look at not just outdoor recreation as a fun thing to do as quality of life, but how this actually turns into economic activity. So a big thrust of this is not just, hey, we need to improve some trails. It's like, hey, what do we actually do for business attraction retention? Additionally, we have a trail connectivity study that's underway for the Warren County Bikeway and Feeder Canal Trail. Primary projects that we completed in 2023, housing needs analysis, countryside improvements, and we received funding for the Restore program, which is repairs for elderly homeowners. This, we think, is a really good opportunity for our department to re-engage with the New York State Homes and Community Renewal Office. They're the office that is the primary holder of funding for housing programs. In the past, our department had much more involvement. I think around 2008, 2009, we sort of pulled back from some of their programs. But in light of the housing study and just overall, community need for housing, we're trying to understand how we can best re-engage with these programs and channel more funding back into the county. I think that's it for that slide. As I just alluded to, we have reorganized the department. You'll see here the planning side and the GIS side. We share our administrative staff, and we work together constantly. Right now, we're in a position where we'll be filling another office specialist position next month, we hope to, and then we'll be rebuilding our planning department with principal planner and junior planner. In addition, one thing that wasn't mentioned on that was another GIS staff that we've recently approved from Real Property. So as I mentioned, the Warren County Comprehensive Plan really is central to what we're doing. The outdoor recreation strategic plan, again, I think this will be dovetailed into the comprehensive plan. And then the housing strategy, it's not fully outlined there, but at the previous committee meeting, we approved a contract with LaBella Associates to develop a housing strategy. We hope to commence work on that fairly soon, so we can actually turn our housing study into a strategy. All right, and we'll switch over to the GIS.
All right,
component.
so, few of our projects from last year, assigning E911 addresses is just an ongoing task of our department, so 91 new addresses last year. We had over 500,000 views of our 10 most popular websites. First and foremost is our community map, ImageMate, our recreation map, our First Wilderness website. We maintain a wide array of websites. New one this year is the Chester Challenge website. We've completely redesigned that and added a new trail, Panther Mountain. So the town added that recently. If you haven't hiked that, it's a really great addition. Very nice family-friendly hike in the center of town. So with a nice view. We've been supporting the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War. So that will be, it's starting to ramp up, as I'm sure you've heard tourism and our historian discuss. So we have been supporting those efforts. We developed the website brochure for them, and we continue to support that activity. The census data, the 2020 census data was released in 2023. So we spent a substantial amount of time pulling that data and doing some analysis of trends over the past 50 years. The census also resulted in a bit of redistricting of election districts for Board of Elections. So we're involved in that process. In the process, updated their polling locator app to be more user-friendly as we prepare for the 2024 election. And then we've done quite a bit of work this year for the City of Glens Falls Public Works Department in support of their fairly new city engineer who's enthusiastic about GIS technology. We're trying to support them embracing that a bit more.
Great. Yeah. And looking forward, I think we covered most of it on the planning side. We look forward to your support in all these different planning projects. And again, don't ever hesitate to reach out for us on local planning. We know a lot of people are doing comprehensive plans right now. We're here as a resource. And also with grant funding. We work in pretty close partnership with Beth, who's keeps us abreast of federal and state level grants. So, between the two of our organizations, we can just help your communities access funding.
And some of our upcoming projects on the GIS side for 2024, as I think most of you are aware, our longtime tax map technician is retiring next month. In conjunction with getting the new tax map technician up to speed, we also, in not perfectly ideal timing, but have to do it kind of situation, the software that Real Property has been using for the last decade is going out of support. So we will be doing a transition process to convert their data into a new format and do training to get the new tax map technician up to speed with maintaining the data in new software. So that will be a fairly time-consuming project for this year. We're also going to develop a new version of our community map. The version of the software that we used for its development is also approaching the end of its life cycle. So we're hoping to get a jump on developing that using a new platform, hopefully with some additional improved functionality as well. We also have a new letterboxing challenge that we're working on, which will be focused kind of in conjunction with the 250th anniversary of the Revolutionary War, as well as our trail study. It's going to be focused on the bikeway. We'll be releasing a new bikeway map and website along with that. So hopefully that'll be a fun new activity. And then as we've discussed, I think at last month's meeting in more detail, we're working on very detailed build out analyses for all of the hamlets in the county, and we'll be reaching out to the individual towns as we get further along in that process.
And that's it. You have the full report on in your agendas, and it's also on our website. Any questions at all, don't ever hesitate to reach out. Any support, any technical questions, or just anything in general. We're here to be a resource for the communities.
How long did Bella represent in their RFP response it would take for you to see an initial housing strategy draft?
It's pretty quick.
4 weeks or something?
I believe we have a 4-month timeline on this one. Yeah, 4 months is which is pretty aggressive. So I think we're gonna go to contract sometime this week, based on approval from last Friday's board meeting. So March, yeah, May, June.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to it, which is nice because it'll dovetail with the availability of funding from the state for other housing programs that's announced in like May and then due at the end of July.
Yep.
So if it's like there's specific things that we need to do and go after funding for, we'll have that opportunity.
Any other questions from the committee for Sarah, Beth, or Ethan? All right, thank you, guys. Well, feel free to stick around or peel off if you got stuff to do.
Thank you, Bill.
We'll move into our agenda for Workforce Development Department with Liza. We have updates on the workforce, an overview of the department, and we wanted to discuss the letter that we discussed in our last meeting. So take it away, Liza.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, everybody. Since this committee has a lot of new members, I wanted to make sure I gave you an overview about our department and how our 2023 went. Keeping in mind that we're actually on a different fiscal year. We operate on like a school year, July 1 to June 30th. But just a couple updates before I dive into the PowerPoint and Amanda pulls it up. It is February, so we are in the thick of planning our annual high school job fairs. That flyer and registration link is out for the public now. Currently, we have 3 high school job fairs planned again: Queensbury, Lake George, and Glens Falls. Johnsburg School District is having one as well, but their students are planning it, which is really great. It's part of their project. So we're supporting them, but we're not actively recruiting businesses for the Johnsburg one like we are for the other 3. And it's busy. It's busy in our center. Unemployment does go up slightly in the winter for seasonal workers. But I'm gonna dive into our overview, and then I'm happy to answer any questions. So the next slide shows our org chart. Essentially, it's just me and my 8 staff. One is you'll see at the bottom, the summer job coach. That's part-time. She's only in the summer. And then I also have another part-time person, office specialist. I'm just starting my 5th year in this position. And when I started, I moved some things around. So I've added a couple positions. I added the coordinator. I added the career development specialist. I'm super grateful with ARPA money. We were able to pilot some of the 2 positions in the turquoise color are funded with ARPA money. So it's something to keep in mind post 2026. At the bottom, those 6 people at the bottom are directly servicing people, whereas my account manager and my coordinator are more kind of behind the scenes folks. Next slide. So even though we're on a different fiscal year, I still crunch some numbers for you based off of like what 2024 will look like. And with you'll see Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act is our primary funding. We owe it. It is federal money. It passes through New York State Department of Labor and down to counties across the state. So that is our primary source of funding, but we've been super grateful the last couple of years to have additional ARPA money. We're in the second year of county investment into workforce development at 100,000. And then TANF, Temporary Aid for Needy Families, is our summer youth employment money. So social services signs those funds over to our department to run the summer youth employment program every summer. So that's an estimate you have for this summer for TANF. Last year was 112, and we're just predicting it might go up a little bit to 115. I also did an estimate for ARPA money on an annual basis because we were awarded 523,000 of ARPA dollars for 6 different projects. But this ARPA money just for this year, it covers those 2 jobs I was telling you about, and it also covers training dollars, which we'll get into in a little bit too. So that is our primary budget on your kind of fiscal year. Any questions about our money? All right, next slide. So the WIOA legislation, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, requires that we have a workforce board. There are 33 workforce boards across the state. We are in the Saratoga, Warren, and Washington Workforce Development Board. And this Venn diagram I created for you kind of shows how we all work together. So the workforce board works with the career centers. We have at least 50% of the board members have to be business representation. We also have educators, labor unions, folks who are partners on our workforce board. We have currently 10 Warren County workforce board members. They serve 3-year appointments. Some of those will be reappointed this spring. So you'll learn more about that later this spring. And then we're working with the community, industry partners, BOCES, school districts, human service agencies, social services. We're all sharing information back and forth to assess what our industry needs are, what our training needs are, and we work very closely with BOCES and SUNY and other training providers. All right, I am very proud of a lot of things in our department, but this I'm extremely proud of. So when I started this position in November 2019, we only had about $30,000 a year to use for training, to help people with training. Essentially, whatever's left in our budget, we would use for training. And now you see in 2023, we spent $122,000 from three different buckets to help cover training that is critically needed for some of these in-demand industries in our community. So you can see CDLs are extremely important, and 11 of our CDL sponsorships, we're paying for their course, right? And we pay BOCES. We don't give money to clients. We pay directly to training providers. 11 of those that we covered in 2023 were for municipalities, right? Johnsburg, Queensbury. We've also helped Bolton School District with another CDL license. So most of those or some of those are people who already had jobs, but they needed that license so that they can do additional work for their municipality. So we're extremely proud of that. Nursing. So these are some of our biggest industries here, of course. So healthcare, hospitality, tourism, and retail, government and education, and manufacturing. When somebody comes to our office to apply for sponsorship, they have to be a Warren County resident. We have to know that they're committed to this training program and that they're going to stay local, of course, and that it is an in-demand industry. So for example, I may choose to not fund somebody through the cosmetology training program if that's not an in-demand industry. So these are more of our in-demand industries. The registered nurses and the LPNs, as we know, are critical, as Glens Falls Hospital now has 337 jobs open. There are times it's been 500 jobs, but they need professionals, right? Most of those jobs open are physicians or RNs. And you'll see supportive services there. So if somebody needs work boots, $150 pair of work boots in order to start a job and they can't afford them, if they meet the application requirements, we can help cover those costs. We have a contract with Super Shoes. Transportation, there's a nursing student who's a single mom and she had to drive to classes and we would provide her with gas cards to get to class. We do not cover transportation costs for commutes. No, that's on people. We are helping people if they need transportation to an interview or a training and anything to obtain work. That is how our supportive services come in handy. Department of Transportation, med certification, that is making sure that, our people out on the roads are healthy, right? And there's a cost associated with that, and some people can't afford to cover that. Any questions about our training dollar spending in 2023? We serviced 48 people through training and 21 people through supportive services. All right, moving on. During COVID, all of the Capital Region Career Centers were meeting virtually, of course, and we were like, what else can we continue to offer the community, the public? And every month we have hosted, since COVID started, these virtual workshops that are extremely popular. And people all over the state tune in. So one of my employment counselors teaches 3 of these workshops, and then other career centers also we co-facilitate together. Some of these are basics, right? Resume development, but there's other ones that are critical to people who have barriers to employment. So another workshop, overcoming barriers, transferable skills as people are changing careers. They need assistance with that. So you can see on average each month, we have about 20 to 30 attendees to each workshop. And that has led to almost 2,000 people in 2023 attending our virtual workshops. We are incredibly grateful for Don Lehman, of course, who pushes us out on social media, chambers of commerce, and other community partners sharing this resource with the public. This is free. And they're always engaged. We also offer this to Warren County Jail. Cameras are off during these workshops, so the pods can participate, get the same information about some of these things, and then get connected with our office when they are released from jail. Any questions about our workshops? Moving on. All right, the numbers. So you can see based on this is New York State Department of Labor, and their data for these labor force statistics it's like a formula that they crunch based on unemployment claims, seasonal trends, and job openings, right? And tax papers, who's taken on new jobs. So you can see at the height of the pandemic, April 2020, in red, we were at 19% unemployment. And then we were one of the counties to recover the fastest. By August and December, we were almost back to normal, right? We're usually always around 5% unemployment in our county. So we had one of the fastest recoveries. And still to this day, we have more people in the workforce than before. And so if you're hearing in your work and in your communities, nobody wants to work anymore, that is a false narrative. So if you look at those 2 highlighted numbers, and even myself, the other day I was in a local store in line, and there was one cashier open. And a person behind me said, "Oh, nobody wants to work anymore. Why don't we have more cashiers open?" And in that moment, I had to decide whether I was going to talk about work or not. And I chose not to talk about work. But I'm going to say it again for folks watching on YouTube. If you look at December 2023, who's employed, in December 2019, we actually have more people working now than 2019. And so everybody's like, okay, then why do I see all of these help wanted signs, right? Why do we still have so many job openings? And I wish there was one answer, but there's really like 10. And Jim and I have talked about this in previous presentations as well, but COVID shifted the way people want to work. We can all think back on our COVID time or forget it because we really want to, about how it shifted priorities. And we had more people in our community start their own businesses. We had people choose not to do public facing jobs. And a lot of the help wanted signs that we see out there for public facing jobs. And then we have people who want more flexibility and hybrid work or remote work. So this explains a little bit why we still see so many job postings, but also we were already short people before COVID, right? We never had enough people to fill all of our jobs, which is why our tourism and hospitality industries have been so dependent on international students every summer. So this is big picture. I wanted you to see this. And if anybody wants the direct link to Department of Labor website to see these numbers, they have it by county and every month and every year. It's really interesting to see. But please help spread the message that it is a false narrative that people do not want to work. Some of you are very familiar with our summer youth employment program, which is funded by TANF, Temporary Aid to Needy Families. Students have to meet the income requirements to be a part of this program. Students age 14 to 20 can apply for our summer youth employment program. Applications are starting to go out next week already. So, and every summer we have youth from all over the county. So last summer we had 27 youth from 8 different zip codes in Warren County helping 18 different work sites. Some of those are municipalities, some of those are businesses. We pay their salaries, so that is free help for our local agencies, and definitely at a busy summer season. So we're very proud of that. One of those work sites, they work under Chef Matt Young from BOCES, making summer lunches. And those are handed out at various locations. This past summer, it was at Eastfield. So 537 meals prepared by students under the guidance of a chef given to their fellow peers who need lunch in the summer. So, and we have a big celebration and award ceremony in August. Many of the supervisors attend that, and we look forward to seeing many of you there again this August. Next slide. We have a youth GED class for students age 16 to 24 who have dropped out of high school. This is very concerning right now that we're in our second year of a full GED class with a waiting list of about 15 youth. Why is that happening? We know during COVID, there were students who felt disconnected from their schools and maybe never got that connection back. We know there are social issues, anxiety, mental health, bullying. We hear this from the young people in our GED class. Most of our GED students are around 18 or 19, but most of them dropped out at 16 or 17. Some of them have to take one section to pass and get their GED. Others have to take the full 4 sections to pass their GED. We teach with BOCES the GED class twice a week in our center. We're in downtown Glens Falls. And as soon as somebody passes their test, others are pulled in off the waiting list. We are talking with Queensbury School District and Lake George School District to see if we can get maybe another evening GED session, because the 15 students that are waiting for our GED class, we don't want to lose them. And it is really important that they finish their GED in order to get viable employment in our community. You will see some of our students on the new youth documentary series that Jesse Jackson is making for Look TV. So look out for that in the next few months. Any questions about that? There is an adult GED class as well. That's taught through BOCES at local schools. Additional youth programming. We work very closely with Warren County Probation. They received a grant the last few years, the Y Reconnects grant, to help young people get some worksite mentorship. So we work with them, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, and we've placed youth at short-term worksite mentorship places where they can learn more about an industry that they're interested in. They do get a small stipend for going, and these are primarily youth at risk, right? So they could be in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program, they could be in foster care, they could be in our GED class. And we have seen tremendous benefits from just a short-term worksite placement. This is another caring adult. This is a foot into an industry that they care about. And then eventually this helps them gain some valuable skills for the workforce. We also have year-round work experience. So we have a tourism intern right now in tourism department doing very well. She is a SUNY student. But we've also had youth in the past at Adirondack Folk School and other places year round. Again, we pay their salaries. So people who have barriers to employment, need some additional skills, we partner with local agencies and departments to get them some experience. Virtual reality, whether we like it or not, it is the reality, it is here. Those are our virtual reality headsets on a Lake George student, where they can try out different industries virtually. They can change oil in a car virtually. They can do vital signs in a hospital room virtually. So our career development specialist, which is funded by ARPA, partners with the schools, goes to the schools, also sets up field trips, anything that the guidance counselors and teachers don't have time to do. Our department is supporting them with that. And as you see, our high school job fairs, they're not your typical job fair. These job fairs are fun and interactive, and the businesses and agencies are competing for the best table. And the kids are prepared before, during, and after the job fair for what they need to do in order to be successful. And our businesses are so generous, they always donate prizes. So putting that out there again to the universe, that we're accepting prizes that go to businesses with the best displays, as well as the youth that all get hired by the end of May, because we know our local tourism season really needs workers by the end of May. Any questions about our youth programs? All right, and just some other successes that I wanted you to be aware of, and definitely I'll talk about some challenges and how we could use your help. With the ARPA money, we did use 30,000 of that to purchase laptops and other technology that is beneficial to our community that has tech gaps. So if somebody comes to our office or to Crandall Library and they show, I'm enrolled in a class or a training, but I don't have a laptop, can I rent it out? We are doing those rentals now, thanks to the ARPA money, and really a big thank you to the IT department for helping us set all of those up. We're in our third year with our Pathways class with social services. Those are people applying for temporary assistance, but deemed employable. They have to go through our employment class, which is at our career center. It's not at social services. And we do that every month, and it's 3 mornings. And then after that class, they're also getting employment counseling. So DSS will be able to share more data with you about the numbers and how many people come through that program. But we love working with them. And it's been really successful. And we always find out that most people really do want to work, but they have barriers. And I'll never forget the first time we did a class 3 years ago. In the class, there was a medical emergency, right, from one of the clients. And so everybody has a different barrier, whether it's a medical issue or a skill deficit. Some of them couldn't read, or mental health barriers, recovery, substance use. We just have to meet each individual needs. And we love working with our DSS partners to do that. I'm very proud of the budget that we have really more than doubled. So when I started in 2019, we were just primarily WIOA funded, about $500,000, maybe $550,000. And now if you include all of our grants and support, we're over $1 million. We also have a childcare grant that I haven't really listed, but that is to open more home-based childcare providers. And that money is through 2026. I already mentioned that we've increased staffing, so I was able to add a couple people. Our partnerships are critical. We have the best community here. So working with schools, human service agencies, chambers, hosting chamber events. Very often they're having panel discussions about hiring gaps or populations that we should be targeting that are not being supported in recruitment efforts. So we love working with the chambers. Our fiscal audits with the state are always positive. No concerns there. And we started a couple years ago, now we celebrate our summer tourism hospitality workforce every September at Great Escape. So things like this really keep our momentum going. And then our partnerships with Warren County government have really grown in the last couple years too. We work very closely with civil services, HR, Don Lehman, making sure that when we're at job fairs, that the Warren County jobs are also promoted there, right? And then if there's any training needs, we have many free training resources for not only Warren County departments, but our local businesses and agencies. We had 6 job fairs in 2023. 3 of those were the high school job fairs, and then we hosted 3 others. And then we also attend other job fairs. For example, SUNY Adirondack always hosts job fairs. Our center, please come visit anytime. We are in the Old Travelers Building in Glens Falls. It is very important to me that our center is not institutional looking, but more inspirational. And so we've spent time and resources updating our center so that it is welcoming, that our computers are updated, and that people feel like they have a space where they can job search or get the assistance they need without feeling like they're in an unemployment office. We are not the unemployment office. Unemployment is processed in Albany. All right, and the last slide. These are the challenges we face day to day, year to year, and any support or anything anybody wants to know more about, happy to share with you. But we know the greatest barriers to employment continue to be housing. I appreciate hearing all of the housing work that's happening. I definitely would love to see more municipalities doing something about short-term rentals because we need that housing for our local residents. Transportation is always a challenge. We know that our growing partnership with CDTA will be fruitful. And our goal looking forward is to make sure that businesses all know what bus route they're on too, so that they can promote that in their job postings. That is a perk that they can offer. Childcare, mental health, criminal records, skill deficits, demographics because of our aging population. And there are still some technology gaps. A lot of stuff is done on cell phones or online now. For example, an unemployment claim or a job application, a lot of that is done online. And so if somebody does not have a cell phone or a computer, that can be a challenge, and we help bridge those gaps for folks. And self-service, right? And internet. I know a lot of folks are working on that. If somebody has a criminal record, we see at least one person a day in our career center with somebody who was formerly incarcerated. They face 30 to 40,000 barriers to training and employment nationally. So that means you might not, even though you've already served your time, you might not be able to get a certain license, right? And so we talk to people who have been justice involved about how to talk about their conviction, right? And what field or industry may be appropriate for them. And we work very closely with Sheriff's Department and Warren County Jail. We're happy to have them as a partner. Vulnerable populations, veterans, we have staff on site with Department of Labor that serve our veteran community. We also have an agency called A4TD that serves our senior population. And today in our office, once a month, SAIL is in our office, Southern Adirondack Independent Living, helping people with disabilities or helping people who don't have health insurance. So these vulnerable populations need as much support and resources as possible. Retention and workplace culture. I always say that retention is the new recruitment because we don't have enough people. And so we need businesses to keep who they have and to really work on that. We have a lot of great businesses in Warren County, but that doesn't mean they're all great employers. We spend more time at work than we do at home. So we really love working with chambers and businesses about how to better retain their workforce with upskilling, with opportunities for advancement, positive workplace culture, problem solving resources, things like that. Our other biggest challenge, which is not news to you, is government bureaucracy. We face a lot of that working with the state and their databases. They're not always accurate. They're not always, they need a lot from us, but we don't always get what we need from them. So some of those challenges, we just deal with it and make the best of it, of course. The grant restrictions for WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, is always a challenge. Somebody may not be eligible for WIOA money, but that's where I'm so grateful to have Warren County investment and ARPA money that gives me a little bit more flexibility when somebody needs something that we feel like is a viable investment. And then different fiscal years, I look forward to speaking with our treasurer, my fiscal manager, and I will meet with our treasurer soon. These different fiscal years create a challenge for us. So in addition to us being on a different fiscal year than the county, we also can carry over money. And then, so we're technically operating from 3 different years, but the Warren County financial system, New World, you can only operate in 1 year. And so those numbers in New World at the county don't match our numbers, right, for our budget. And that really bothers my fiscal manager, who's amazing. So things like that could be really helpful for the county to resolve, to where we can operate in different fiscal years and our numbers match, because nobody wants to be in the red. I've said a lot to give you an overview of our work in workforce development, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Liza.
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say that this is a very positive report, and thank you for everything that you're doing. You and your staff.
Have the best staff.
Liza is like one of our secret weapons, and we hosted a session together with some of our peers at one of the area high schools 2 weeks ago. And it took weeks of planning to spend a couple hours with every senior to be able to give them some sense of not only what the organizations themselves do, but how they could find their place in our communities going forward. I can tell you that without Liza, I'm not sure how that would have gone. She is a superstar, not only in rooms like this, but with people of all ages and all abilities finding their way. And as a personal testament, I now have every high school wanting to do it like George did, based on that positive experience. But we work closely with the organization all the time, and the Workforce Development Board, we're a part of it. And the resources that we're able to lever are significant. But without her and her staff, I think we would probably be like many of our peer counties, where we struggle to really fully utilize all the assets and resources that we have. As bad as the situation is, and we have thousands of open jobs, we have employers who desperately need more workforce. We are getting everything we could possibly want from this investment. I want to thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Very nice.
Any other questions from the committee on the departmental overview? I wanted to touch real quick on the letter, career and training education proposed cuts by New York State. Liza asked for a request by way of a letter. We agreed as a committee we would do that. We were shared that template letter that I shared with each of you by email earlier this week. It was put together by Gretchen Steffen, the Saratoga Warren Washington County Workforce Development Board Executive Director. She offered for us to customize it any way we want, tailor it just to Warren County. We've provided it to the 9 superintendents, although only 7 of their districts are being impacted. We've received comments from 3. We've given them to the end of Friday, and I hope with any comments from you and Liza that we can have a final draft ready for the chairman to review, consider, and sign next week. Yeah. Liza?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would just add, and it's been great to see the superintendent's responses. It would be really helpful to hear from some of them. Some have provided more information than others, how those cuts would impact them specifically. So does that mean that they have to lay off teachers, or does that mean that they can't send as many students to BOCES for career and technical education? We know that is critical for our community, the BOCES programs and our local students. So I think getting some more specifics from those 7 school districts to outline in the letter would be helpful, so we know exactly what the impact will be. We know it's a lot of money being proposed to be cut from our rural school districts. But what it could look different in each school district. So that's my only follow-up from that. And I really want to thank you and the committee for sending that letter.
All right, without anything else, President EDC Warren County's here, Jim Siplin. If you wanted to say anything.
I know.
Could you go to the microphone though,
We'll do is,
Jim? Could you go to the microphone though, please?
Certainly. We're not on the agenda and I don't want to keep you any longer than you have to be, but we would be happy in the next meeting or at your convenience to give a similar update on both the past year and the plans for the coming year. I would say one thing that is important for everyone to know is the enormous amount of work that we are doing with our peers in Washington and Saratoga County in engaging state resources and regional assets to address any continuing challenges that we have with legacy and large-scale employers. So as we talked about in a previous meeting, if you want any more detail on that, we're available to you 7x24 to talk about the work that continues to go on there. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into privilege of the floor again. Does anybody have any comments for the committee? Any supervisors not on the committee? All right, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Mr. Mayday, seconded by Mr. Bean. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're adjourned.